The actions of one troubled man led to the death of a 15-year-old boy, ruined a marriage, and sent another onto the streets. And it leaves me with one massive question. How do we solve the knife crisis that is not just ruining lives, but taking them away altogether? Often knife crime comes from poverty, inequality, and desperation, where people feel as though they have no choice but to turn to crime.
Violence comes from inequality. It comes from deprivation, it comes from poor housing and education.
What did it feel like to stab somebody?
Well, when I stabbed someone, it didn't feel nice, but I had to, as I said to you, I had to do what I got to do. I need the money at the time, and I see this guy, he walked past me in a nice Rolex, so I had to stab him to get that. So I had to stab him. I stabbed him 6 times.
They say to me, oh Hezron, you was just one of those people that slipped through the net. Well then, even now I think to myself, how many people have slipped through the net? How many young people are out there right now in an emergency accommodation with no support, no guidance, no one around them? Yeah.
But there are things we can do to reduce poverty and inequality. Lowering income tax, helping support those that have nothing, and increasing the minimum wage can lead to more money in the pockets of workers. And this makes everyone wealthier. The average homicide costs the taxpayer $2.3 million for every single case. So reducing poverty and crime is worth it for everyone. But for some people, crime is more complicated, and it's not always rooted in a lack of money. For example, Alfie's killer didn't seem to be related to gangs or a robbery.
An outwardly normal teenager with a worrying interest in knives was just 14 when he attacked 15-year-old Alfie Lewis with a 5-inch kitchen knife outside a primary school in Leeds.
So we need something more. We need to treat knife crime like it's a disease.
Glasgow used to be home to a horrific reputation, the murder capital of Europe. But homicides have fallen by 60%. That's due to a revolutionary approach of treating violence as a disease.
In 2005, Glasgow's regional police force set up the Violence Reduction Unit. It became the only police force in the world to take a public health approach to violence. The VRU's new strategy was inspired by the work of Gary Slutkin.
After mapping crime data, he noticed that violence followed the same pattern as contagious diseases. One act led directly to another, and these were often found clustered together. He also found that violence could be transmitted between people.
Slutkin used his revolutionary approach to prevent outbreaks of violence in Chicago through methods that he previously used to stop infectious diseases from spreading. His first step was to find the root cause, where the violence was coming from.
This work is carried out by violence interrupters, people with an established relationship with the community who can help identify symptoms and eliminate the root causes of violence. Second is to identify people who might be at risk of developing violent behaviour and try to prevent it from happening. This is done by offering alternatives to gang membership through employment, housing and health support. Finally, an important step is to change attitudes towards violence, making communities understand that it's something preventable. This approach has been adapted by the Violence Reduction Unit in Scotland.
And mathematically, it seems like a good idea. Each homicide case is estimated to cost the taxpayer $2.3 million, which is more than the cost of running the VRU for an entire year.
We had a homicide rate involving knives that was 3.5 times higher than anywhere else in Europe.
John Carnacan set up the Violence Reduction Unit.
We got all the guys who were in gangs, we brought them together, about 80 or 90 at a time, and we said, we've had enough of this. The community's had enough of this. You've had enough of this. It needs to stop. And when you stop, we'll help you do other stuff. And the gang stuff was a huge success. Huge success.
But the problems in England and London is now far more severe than the situation in Glasgow.
Put down the knife! Put it down! Come on! Put down the knife!
This is the United Kingdom, where it's illegal to carry a knife longer than 3 inches in public without good purpose. As of 2022, 40% of all homicides in England and Wales was done using a sharp instrument, and knife crime is up 76% over the last 10 years.
They say a man drove into a house and then began stabbing people with a sword.
One of the kids pulls out a flipping screwdriver and just starts stabbing me in my legs and that.
Been stabbed on 2 separate occasions. I got a total of 8 stab wounds.
Did you get shot in the eye?
Yeah, I got shot point blank range. I've been stabbed and cut about 24 times. I've been shot 5 times and I've been hit with an axe.
I feel like it's not safe around here anymore. Anything can happen in seconds. They're selling online for £15, whole big katana about long.
But many would like to see swifter action. In 2021, Hawa Haragazika lost her 15-year-old son Tamim, who was stabbed to death as he walked home from school. And Tamim is just one tragedy among many. At least 42 children under the age of 16 have been stabbed to death in England and Wales since the government first announced a zombie knife ban.
At first glance, there appears to be two types of country that have really low crime rates. They're countries like the United Arab Emirates and Japan that seem to be very strict on crime. But countries that take this approach also have to be careful to ensure that they're not taking it too far.
You don't want to get arrested in Japan. One of the many great things about Japan is how extremely safe the country is. Crime rates in Japan are one of the lowest in the world.
But that's partly because of something called hostage justice. Indeed, in Japan, it often feels like you are guilty until proven innocent, rather than innocent until proven guilty. In the UK, at most, you can hold someone for 14 days without charging them. In Japan, you can be held for 23 days. That doesn't sound too bad, right? That's only 9 more days. Well, yeah, but in Japan they can actually break your crime up into little pieces. So if you were committing fraud for a year, that just wasn't just one crime. That could be 12 little crimes that make up the big crime. And then what the police can do is they can release you, and then they can just immediately arrest you again. And they can do that over and over and over again, even though you haven't even faced trial. And once you do get to trial, don't expect a jury, because trials in Japan don't have juries. In fact, it appears as though many people confess to crimes that they haven't even committed, because this is the quickest way for them to get out of jail. After all, over 98% of people that get arrested in Japan are convicted. Another type of country takes a much more community-focused approach. They focus on getting people to trust the police. They focus on helping their criminals reintegrate into society. And they focus on looking after their people so that they don't turn to crime in the first place. Countries like Denmark, Norway, and Iceland are changing the way that the world looks at crime.
Did you know that Iceland's average homicide rate between 2010 and 2020 never went above 1% per 100,000 population, making it one of the safest countries in the world?
This is caused by
a strong sense of community and shared responsibility. The country has a robust welfare system, high-quality education, and effective social services. Furthermore, Iceland's police force is well respected and trusted. Icelandic society places a high value on trust, cooperation, and respect for the law, focusing on prevention rather than punishment. Iceland's robust welfare system also plays a crucial role in maintaining its low crime rate. The country provides high-quality education and healthcare to all its citizens, regardless of their economic status. This ensures that everyone has the opportunity to lead a productive life, reducing the likelihood of resorting to crime. The welfare system also supports those in need, reducing economic disparities and social tensions that could lead to crime.
The UK has progressively been trying to get tougher and tougher on crime, but it hasn't been working. It's time that we try something different. It's time that we embraced the compassionate approach. But one of the key things that causes knife crime is that our prison system does not work. People come out of prison only to commit more crime. So to truly solve knife crime, it's key that we solve the prison crisis too. So click this video to see how bad the UK prison crisis is and how we can solve it.